My motivation for trying to have sex with a midget was the same. Good, I like this laughing. Was the same as it is for every other thing. I write comedy. So I met this little guy on the internet, which, in case you didn't know, is this magical, glorious place where one might reinvent himself without fear of exposure by people who know how much he sucks in real life. And the place online where this lying most often occurs is on dating websites. Now, I don't lie on the internet because I would actually like to possibly have sex in real life. And I imagine that becomes incredibly difficult after I've shyly introduced myself to a man who has heretofore seen only a third of the face, and in profile, mind you, of a woman who checked the athletic body type box and described herself as having a cheerful and upbeat personality. I don't have one of those. So there are a lot of 5'7" out here masquerading as 5'9" and 5'10". So when I received a charming and well-composed message from a dude who actually listed his height at 5'2", yeah, my first thought was, finally, my opportunity to legally suck the dick of a person too small to ride a roller coaster. I've always wanted to be one half of a hilarious-looking couple. My brain danced with thoughts of all the fun we could be at parties. Him balanced on my knee with my hand shoved awkwardly up his ass while he sang a helium voice rendition of Yankee Doodle, as I drank a full glass of water to prove I wasn't throwing my voice. What fun! We would be such a hit on the social circuit. And if that didn't work, I would be shrouded in the romance and excitement that comes with having regular sex with someone mysterious or socially unpalatable. It would be like having dinner with a Dateline decoy.
Yes!
And consider all of the practical benefits. Movies are goddamn expensive, and I'd save a lot of money purchasing tickets for one adult and one bearded child. Sure, we might be limited in what movies we're allowed to see, but I, for one, found Toy Story quite charming and surprisingly emotionally mature. I thought you'd be slimmer, is what he said as I reached for the cocktail menu, and I promptly lifted my mental ban on Hobbit jokes. I told myself I had to resist the urge to ask him to show me the bridge he lives under, and I promised to restrain myself from involuntarily reaching over to cut up his meat if we ordered dinner. But then I looked down at the floor where he just happened to be swinging his feet like a third grader. Slimmer than what? I said. I don't lie to the internet. And that's the truth, man. I fucking don't. Lying is fine if you plan to never leave the house so someone can't see how you really look. But pen pals can't buy you dinner and water your plants while you're in the hospital. I could be anyone I want to be if I was going to hide behind a computer screen, but I get tired of going to the movies alone, so my shit is really me. Instead of answering, he offered to get our drinks at the bar, and I agreed to let him, thankful for the opportunity to inconspicuously shove some napkins into my soaking wet bra. I really sweat a lot. And practice sucking in my gut. I did crane my neck to see if his head cleared the top of the bar, though, because I'm an asshole. He came back with my club soda and a couple shots for himself. Can you believe I had to wait 5 minutes for him to find the Macallan? Man, I always get the short end of the stick. I froze. One time, I had awkward baby sex with this dude with an incredibly small penis. Afterward, while he was still naked, he started joking about his fun-sized Snickers bar. He said that. Thinking that I was in on the joke, I said, yeah! I couldn't tell if you were trying to bang me or if you were giving me a thumbs up. Crickets. I didn't know I wasn't supposed to say anything. And he just stared at me with such disdain that I immediately put my pants on and got in my car and drove home. Hesitant to repeat such an uncomfortable incident, I just sat there like a dog, like blinking. And then my giant ass opened up and said, well, it's busy in here and maybe they're a little short-handed. He glared at me. He really loosened up after a couple drinks, and all I could think about was how quickly his tiny body had metabolized that alcohol. He invited me over to his place to watch television, and I agreed because please give me a good reason. I should have said no. When he came back from paying the tab, this little asshole leered and said, "Guess where I live?" "Oz," I ventured. And he frowned before swaying on his feet and motioning to the door. "Should I drive?" I asked while he fumbled with the keys to an SUV parked across the street. I'd had 3 club sodas while this dude, the size of a 10-year-old, had consumed the adult equivalent of a handle of whiskey. "Sure thing," he slurred, tossing me the keys while I gave him a boost up and fastened him snugly into the car seat. "Should we listen to VeggieTales?" I asked, but he was already fast asleep. Thankfully, mean, tiny drunk people with no sense of direction do things like program home into their car's GPS. So I followed the instructions of the mechanical voice as she guided me down the yellow brick road to a really nice townhouse. "No shoes," he commanded as we walked in the door, kicking off a pair of men's size 5s in the front hall. Really small. I stepped out of mine, nearly double in length. I wonder if he bought his clothes at Baby Gap. He offered to make us some snacks, and I asked if he had any Keebler Softback or Lucky Charms. "What about a poison apple?" I stood barefoot on the heated tile floor, a maid had obviously cleaned, while he pulled out a tiny little stepladder and grabbed some things from the top shelf in the refrigerator. "Where's Mr. Drummond?" I asked, helping myself to a bag of pecans on the counter. "Is Willis coming home soon?" He just means it. You know a dude is balling out of control when he has a couch in his bedroom, unless he lives in a studio where his couch is his bedroom. And we sat on the couch watching DVDs while he tried to explain to me why Blu-ray is worth it. I still don't get it, but I still listen to cassettes, so whatever. What happened next can only be described as he crawled into my lap. Seriously, like a child would. And even though he was a grown man with a full beard, I looked down and saw those tiny hands struggling to undo his belt, and I just couldn't do it. Sensing my repulsion, he stopped. "I'm not a midget, and I have a normal-sized penis," he said. And even after he pulled it out of his little tiny underpants, I still couldn't bring myself to touch it. I just couldn't imagine how it would work logistically with him being the size of one of my legs. He sighed and climbed down off me and got into bed. After a few minutes of sitting on the couch like an asshole, I got up and laid next to him. And in the middle of the night, I vaguely remember feeling his toes brush against my kneecaps. And that's gross. I woke up just before dawn and blinked, trying to figure out how I'd ended up in this enchanted cottage in which my feet hung over the edge of the bed. Suddenly, I had a craving for just right porridge. Dude wasn't next to me, so I imagined he was out somewhere whistling while he worked, and opened the window so the birds and chipmunks and other woodland creatures could come in and make the bed while I sang to them. "You should probably go," he called from the adjacent bathroom toilet when he heard me stirring in the bedroom. "Really? We're shitting with the door open? You must really hate me." He obviously didn't want to drift in and out of a fitful, dreamless sleep while lying stiffly next to me again. I grabbed my bag and thanked him for the $6 worth of club soda he paid for. "You did eat a lot of pecans," was his sharp reply, and I blushed and hurried down the stairs in expensive nut shame, quickly throwing open the door, hoping my carriage hadn't yet turned back into a pumpkin. I stood on his stoop, vainly clicking my heels and wishing my way back to Kansas. I had $4 cash in my wallet and didn't want to go searching for an ATM in an upscale neighborhood while wearing clothes off the sale rack at Old Navy. "Get off my porch," he called out of an upstairs window. "I can't," I called back. "Could you lend me $20 to get home? I'm a little short on cash."